Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'd like to welcome everybody. My name's Ron, I'm an alcoholic. And a little explanation. Let's see if we can get settled down and get started. We got a whole bunch of stuff to read ahead of time. Every March, the church does a Code Blue where they help homeless people, which happens in our normal room, and we're forced to be smushed into here. So bear with us. It's about as best we can do, and it's for a good cause. Try sleeping outside tonight. Like these guys got it pretty bad, and we're pretty fortunate to be here. We have a whole bunch of information and flyers out there for your taking. Take them, share them with. We have on 4/22, which is April 22. It's our anniversary. We got a Peter M. workshop. It's 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. Comes with a free lunch. He speaks again at night. Later on this month, on 3/25, we have Paul H. coming in from California, and that will be a pretty powerful talk he's going to give. And what's going to happen, I think I'm going to have to secure a different spot. I thought if we're ever not here for any reason, we go across the VFW across the street. However, on 3/25, they're booked. So if worse comes to worse, we'll move this to Salem for one night so we can get everybody in and make enough room for it. So we're always going to have a meeting somewhere. For this 1 month, it's a little disruptive, so please bear with us. We have a website. You can go on to Google Saturday night AA 1 hour speaker meeting, Doylestown, and it'll come up. You'll find out all the information there. Go on the Facebook page, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown. It's so informative. It has events going on all up and down the East Coast here. And so every single night of the week, you have something to do and somewhere to go that's exciting and eventful and keep you from getting bored in AA and having a lot of fun. I'll turn it over to Tim right now. I'm going to pass around a clipboard with some stuff on it, and make sure you please take a look at those flyers and pass them around. And we got a ton of speakers after the meeting.
Thank you, Ron. Good evening, folks. My name is Tim, and I am an alcoholic. Hey, before I get started, I see this room, and I know we're so used to being next door, but at the depths of my alcoholism, I was so alone and lonesome, and just me in a room with a bottle. And this is so unique and intimate that it's such a departure from where I was at the very lowest moment. Being around other people is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And there's just incredible strength in this room, and I'm kind of glad we're here tonight. It's a nice change. Let me first of all again say I am Tim and I'm an alcoholic, and welcome tonight to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of AA. This is a 1 hour speaker meeting. We hold this every Saturday night at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. We're located here at 301 North Main Street in Doylestown. We start food and fellowship around 8 o'clock. The speaker goes on promptly at 8:30. The purpose of our group is to provide a constant message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and the teachings of the 12 steps. We do record all of our speakers. We really do that to benefit anyone who would like a copy of that. If you wish not to be recorded, please let us know. This is an open meeting of AA. The group would like to welcome everybody, and on a count of 3, if you would raise your hand, if you're new to the meeting or new to AA, if you'll raise your hand. Thank you. Count of 3, we're all going to say welcome. 1, 2, 3. Welcome. Excellent. I love that. God, when the plan comes together. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group does encourage sponsorship. Would anyone who has a working knowledge of the 12 steps and would like to sponsor or be willing to, please raise your hand now. Awesome. So if you're one of those newbies or you're new to the program looking for a sponsor, those hands can be wonderful links for you. Any other announcements for the good of AA? Yes, my dear.
Yes, my name is Justine, and I discovered that I too am an alcoholic.
Hi, Justine.
Hey, Justine, welcome.
In this very room, 6 mornings a week at 6 a.m. until 7 a.m. Monday through Saturday is a AA meeting, Freedom Through the Steps. And it's literature, and there's a lot of service opportunities. It's a great, stable, good meeting that observes not only steps but the traditions. Thank you.
Thank you. We have meeting list out in the hallway. We have a list of all kinds of activities going on. There also are meeting list out there and big books. If you would like anything, please know that all those things are available to you free of charge. There is a little bucket though. There's one back here behind Jamie. Please make it rain when you go by that bucket. Put all kinds of stuff in there, especially 20s. We really, really like those. All right. What I'd like to do now is, if you would like a copy of tonight's speaker, a CD copy of tonight's speaker, or any other speaker, please see Ron or one of the members of the home group. We'll be more than happy to get you one of those. Again, those are free of charge as well. All right? I'm now going to ask Christina to come up and read the AA preamble.
I'm Christina. I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor imposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Can I have Deb come up and read the 12 Steps of Recovery?
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Deb. The AA 12 Steps of Recovery. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscience contact with God, as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
Thanks, Deb.
There's still a few more chairs up here if you'd like, guys. Folks, we do have a 7th tradition here, and I'm going to get these baskets going on either side. Thank you so much. Again, you guys are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful with the giving. I do want to remind everybody, though, that as the baskets go around, we do have an incredible event coming up in April 22nd. Peter M. is coming up with his significant other to do a workshop for us, an all-day workshop on the 12 steps. It'll be in the room right behind us where we normally are. And it'll be free of charge. So if you happen to see other AA events that advertise workshops and other type of, there's always a charge. And listen, I'm not knocking that, but we really pride ourselves in the fact that we're able to do this for free. And the only reason we're able to do that is because you guys are very giving and you reach deep into your pockets, and we do appreciate that. While you are digging deep into your pockets, pull out your cell phones, please, and mute them or turn them off for me. That would be extremely helpful. It can be very, very distracting for our speaker. Okay? Also, I'm going to remind you that there is no smoking on the ground, so when you leave tonight, please walk all the way up the street up here, over to the Dairy Queen, whatever the case may be. And I'll thank you in advance for what you're doing with the baskets. As you all well know, we have no dues, no fees. We run off of the goodwill of all of you guys here. It's now a pleasure to introduce to you our speaker tonight. Originally from Belgrade, Serbia, our speaker's on loan to us tonight from the Thursday night, 7 p.m., Serenity Port's Big Book Group. I love that. It just sounds so homey. Like She comes to us from Rockaway, New Jersey, and she is on loan from her group. Tonight, please, a nice, warm round of applause for Nikoleta D.
I'm Nikoleta. I'm an alcoholic. Thanks for having me and allowing me to participate in my own recovery. Thanks for inviting me. I think Ron booked me only because I have an accent. And if I start speaking in Serbian, it's all part of the gig, so. So I am from Belgrade, Serbia. I was born and raised there till the age of 14. I would say it's an alcoholic country. You're not to be trusted if you don't drink. There's definitely something wrong with you. There is no AA there yet. And hopefully, my prayers are that that will change. My first experience with alcohol was watching my father drink. And I was experiencing that ease and comfort that he was having as he was drinking. And I was very curious about alcohol because I was wondering, there must be something magical about booze because it seemed that it was more important than me. And my first experience when I was a kid, my first memory was coming home and my mother was throwing him out of the house, the booze was flying out of the house, and I just experienced this incredible fear and tension. And pretty much I think I was about 5 or 6 years old, and that's my first memory. I knew that alcohol was a big issue in the family. I knew alcoholism already ravaged my home. And there was a lot of warnings about the booze because my grandmother died with a bottle in her hand. And I'm not an alcoholic because I'm from an alcoholic country. I'm not an alcoholic because my dad or my grandma are. I didn't really understand for a long time what that meant, what that really, really meant. For a long time I thought it was a moral failing and a weakness, and that it looked a certain way. And I remember kind of making a promise to myself that that will never be me. When I was 14, I came to New York City with my mom and my sister, and 2 weeks later we were homeless. And for the next 2 years was a lot of struggle, immigrants just kind of trying to not be hungry, living in abandoned buildings, squatting with strangers. One time I was missing 17 cents to buy bread, and I can't really say that I felt like a victim at that time, but I can see how my tendency, my alcoholic mind kind of started creating a story of a struggle, Between 14 and 16, I probably had like 3 or 4 jobs at any given time. At the same time, what was happening is that I graduated high school at 16 and I was a valedictorian. And I ended up at 16 having my own apartment in Manhattan that I was supporting myself and I was affording on my own. I was completely independent by the age of 16. What that created for me was this sense that there's nothing that I can't accomplish, that there's nothing that I cannot have. If I put my mind to it, I can achieve it. So it created a lot of ambition in me, and it created a lot of self-reliance. When I was 16, I consciously got my hand on a bottle of gin, and that was the first time I drank alcohol. I was home alone. I consciously wanted to experience that which my father has been experiencing for ever since I've known him. And besides the magic that happens if you're an alcoholic, when alcohol enters your system and there's that moment of aha, just that warmth and that sense of connection and that sense of okayness. I had a sense of okayness that up until that time I didn't experience. I was already suffering from alcoholism. When I really look back in my story, the alcoholism, that separation, that disconnect, that restlessness, irritability, and discontent that the big book talks about so beautifully on page 52 was already happening. I was completely self-reliant. I was completely isolated. And when I drank that booze, well, I don't know what happened besides that moment when I first drank it, but I don't remember the rest of the night. I finished the bottle. And from 16 to 27, I drank. And from 16 to 27, the progression was very evident to me. By the age of 20, I was making a ton of money. And, in the earlier days, that which was so important to me, that which alcohol provided to me, why would I stop? It was so important. It did for me something that I haven't found in any other way, I think it got pretty bad probably around the age of 24, 25. So here's my last 2 years of drinking. Eviction notices, all the bills shut off. I'm working at this, I'm a head bookkeeper for a multi-million-dollar company on Madison Avenue for 6 years. And I'm sending messengers to buy me airplane bottles. I'm coming home, I'm coming to work drunk, I'm not showing up to work. By the time it's like February, I've already used all of my vacation and sick days. I'm coming to work at 11, I'm coming to work on a Tuesday, like the guy in the big book, pissed off. You need me. Don't you know who I am? Look at what I've achieved. Look at how much I've accomplished. very, very egoic, very egoic thinking. I was just so full of myself. Kind of I relate to that moment in Bill's story where he says, I had arrived, I got it. I got this. I'm just saying that because I see that for me, alcoholism has been like a spiritual path. I mean, the breakdown of personal will is what really needed to occur. That's it. I had to be broken. I had to be broken open. And so I see today that everything that was taken away from me was taken away because I couldn't see the truth. I couldn't see the truth of my situation. So for the last 2 years of my drinking, I was not connected to anyone. I didn't know what a relationship meant. I didn't know what friendship was. I had no depth with anybody or myself. I was completely wrapped up, neck up, not neck down. I couldn't experience anything internally. I went to college that I paid for myself. I graduated with a philosophy degree. My thesis was proof that there's no God. So if that tells you something, I mean, today the most important relationship in my life is that with the higher power. And there, so you can imagine, I'm just giving you like a visual of my 20s, I'm glad that's not recorded. I get fired. I don't get fired. I get a warning letter, and like a good alcoholic that I am, I throw it in my boss's face and I quit because you need me, and I don't need you, And I get a job 2 blocks away, hostessing at a restaurant that I managed 10 years earlier, and I still don't see anything. Because this illness of alcoholism for me is an illness of it's a disease of perception. We know that. It's minimizing, it's rationalizing, it's blaming, it's justifying, it's judging, it's pointing finger at. It will do anything just not to look at me, just to look at what's really going on, just to be here now in reality of what's now happening, And so September 15, 2006 is my sober date. I didn't pick that date, obviously. I'm an alcoholic. I'm completely powerless over alcohol. For me, step 1 means that I'm going to drink, not that I can't drink. It's very evident to me because in the last 2 years of my drinking, I tried not drinking. I tried controlling and managing drinking. I tried drinking less, and I failed every single time. Today, I know that I have the physical craving, the manifestation of an allergy, that once I pick up a drink, I get extremely thirsty, that I just want more. I was baffled by that during my drinking days because so many times I just wanted to have a few. I had this vision of, like in the movies, you come home, you swirl your nice little glass, the ice cubes, put your feet up, relax and chill out and look like a lady. No, I was like pissing on my floor at 6 a.m, coming to, like vomiting, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty. My end was very, very ugly. And I think my end of drinking could have easily happened at 24, 25, or 26. I heard a speaker once share. He's actually coming here to speak sometime. I'd hit a bottom, I'll furnish it, and I'll invite you over. Because this is normal. This is okay, and there's someone to blame, and there's some other reason why it's like this and stuff like that. And so September 14, 2006, I would say is the most important day in my life. To this day, I don't know what happened. I can't really put it into words. It just makes me cry every time. It's not of my own doing. I can see that enough pain was experienced by that time for maybe that occurrence to happen. I call it fierce grace because it's really painful, and it seems very painful at that time. At that time, it was registered as the worst day of my life. Today, I look back and I see it was the best day of my life, and it was the day I was really reborn. And by that day, on that day, September 14, 2006, under the influence of alcohol, time stopped. Because finally my mind came up with the solution to my alcoholism, to the fact that I couldn't control and manage that which was uncontrollable and unmanageable. You know, I was going to a therapist that I was paying, that I was lying to. I was drinking in his bathroom. He would give me books on alcoholism. I would go to the bar. I would order like whiskey. Whiskey was my drink of choice. I liked amber-colored drinks, you know. It's a Serbian thing. And I would try to read these books sitting on a bar. I mean, like totally delusional. Like I was like out to lunch. I was out to lunch, you know. I didn't know at that time my mom and my sister were planning an intervention. You see, I was dependent on myself. They couldn't take away anything from me. I paid all the bills. I worked very hard. I lived on my own. I didn't live with a man. What do you do? You know, and I was unapproachable. I was completely unapproachable because I was protecting and defending that thing, that one thing that made me feel okay. It just gave me, and like a boomerang, it came back and cut me to pieces, just like Bill W. talks about it. For a long time it worked, and then it stopped working. And when alcohol stopped working, I tried to prove to myself that it could still work. I tried to wrestle any little satisfaction I could out of it, you know. And so on September 14, 2006, after having 2 alcoholic seizures on the street and getting a 3rd eviction notice on my door because no bills were getting paid, and having like this huge bucket in my studio apartment of unopened mail that I couldn't even look at, you know. I was so riddled by fear and so much tension that I couldn't even get the mail out of the mailbox. I didn't even want to see another person, you know. It's a really dark world. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? So I wanted to kill myself. And in my story, that's just not how I rolled. I didn't move like that. I went through a lot. In life. Like you don't just kill yourself. You plow through it. You try. You get up. You know what I mean. So when that thought occurred, I meant it. That was, and this is the mind solution to it. This is my little mind. This is the limited, finite self. This is what it comes up as the solution to my suffering, right? I had no idea Alcoholics Anonymous solution, that of God, is pregnant with infinite possibilities of recovery and rebirth. I had no clue that. I had no idea that I could live life without alcohol. I had no idea that there was a sufficient substitute. And I did try a few AA meetings. I was under the influence. You guys said some wrong things like God or something like that, something radical. And I was like, what the, cult, run, But I'll never forget the fact I had whiskey in my Snapple bottle, I had cocaine in one pocket, I had weed in another pocket, and I'm sitting in an AA meeting. I haven't slept in a week. I'm like looking awful. I have no idea even how I ended up there. Oh yeah, my coworker, 12-step me, who got sober after a night of partying with me. And at this point, he was 2 years sober. And, the walls were closing in, so I go to this meeting, and I ran from there so fast. But one thing registered. You didn't kick me out, You just allowed. I was that girl drunk in the back. That was me. And it was the only place that allowed me to be at that time, So my mind comes up with the solution of wanting to die, and that comes in kind of like a form of what I now see is the most genuine prayer I've ever said, which was I just can't do this anymore. I didn't say, dear God. I wasn't on, well, I was on the floor, but I wasn't on my knees per se. But, there was just like a humbling. There was a breaking down of personal will. Nothing mattered anymore. I was done. I was tired. I was exhausted. I couldn't resist anymore. I couldn't fight anymore. I lost the fight. Alcohol was my master. I have been overwhelmed. And Bill talks about it so beautifully. No words can tell of the loneliness and despair I found in that bitter morass of self-pity. Quicksand stretched all around me. Quicksand, man. The more I tried to dig to get out of it, the more I fell in. I get that. I have had that experience, and it's an experience. It's not a mental experience, not an intellectual experience. That's why it can't be put into words. And all words fall short of that moment when time stopped, and I was done. But I was really done, really done. I had no opinions anymore. I had no ideas. I knew that I couldn't stop drinking. The only one real truth that I realized in that moment with every fiber of my being, that I was hopelessly defeated, yes, the book says it so perfectly, but it's that step one, I will drink. There's no controlling or managing drinking. There's no what I want or how I want it to look like or how I want it to be like, The intuitive thought to ask my neighbor for a quarter came up. So I won't go, New York City payphones, they were still around. And I start calling my sister. And this quarter is all I have. This quarter is all I have because I just spent 99 pennies that I scrambled to get in my apartment on my last Colt. And, the guy was looking at me like I was a bum. And I always looked at him like he was the bum kind of deal, when you start seeing those looks and you're like, wait, and hold up, man, you're in a bodega, man, and so I just had my last Colt, and not as fancy as I used to drink, like a lady, bringing anything home and closing every bar. And I go to the payphone, and she says that I said this. She said, please help me. I can't do this anymore. And it was kind of like a continuation of that surrender that was experienced in that moment, in that precious moment. We call it grace. I call it fierce grace because it came with a lot of pain. It was like I was ripped out of that life, And what happened for me, to this day, pretty much, is that the mental obsession was fully removed from that day. I'm like lucky. I'm a lucky girl. I'm a really, 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 really lucky girl. Because I could not drink for an hour. My goal was not to get sober. I wasn't thinking about sobriety. I was just thinking about not drinking one day. Just enough so I can shower, get up in the morning, go to work on time, maybe pay one bill. That was the goals, man, for a year and a half, And so my sister comes, and the next thing you know, I leave that life, and I'm in long-term treatment where everything is provided for me. I walk into a treatment center 2 days later in Pennsylvania, and a woman asked me why you're here, and I said I don't want to die. And she handed me the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and she said read the first 164 pages, and then they sent me to detox. I heard 64 pages. So I read this, and I'm like on page 64, and I'm like, there's something here she wants me to see. Why would she want me to stop in the middle of a chapter? So that was really cool. That's always really cool to reflect on. But it's also great to reflect on that there I am with like 2-3 days sober in a detox, and I'm reading the big book, which is like Japanese to me, except Bill drinking. That's the only thing I can relate to. I can't relate to the fourth dimension. I can't relate to being rocketed or launched. I can't even really put words into the experience I just had because it's so new, because I've never had it before. I've never experienced it before. Yeah. And in treatment, there was a woman that came in and she spoke, and her life was much more horrific than mine, in my opinion. She's gone through a lot more challenges. And I was looking at her and I was watching her speak, and she was more free than me. She was a lot more free than me. And she went through a lot more than me. And on the outside, we seemed to be totally different. But on the inside, I understood everything she said in terms of emotions. And I went to my counselor and I said, I can't get out of here. Please don't let me out. I'll do anything. The moment I step foot outside of this treatment, I will drink. Even though the mental obsession wasn't there, the conclusion of step one was experienced. I knew I was going to drink. I couldn't trust myself anymore. I didn't trust myself. I fooled myself way too many times. And I ended up in a halfway house for women in the mountains of Pennsylvania. I'm like, where the hell am I? You know, shoveling driveways and stuff like that. So the women taught me a few things I never knew before because I'm such a city girl. And there I read every single piece of AA literature. And I asked two women to work with me, to sponsor me, and they said no. And I'm so grateful for that, because when the 90 days were up in that halfway house, which was like a boot camp, and I was totally not resistant to any of it, didn't matter because I felt safe and protected, and I felt like I was being carried. Again, I didn't do anything. I had this experience. This conclusion of step one just opened the doors. Universe just aligned, and it was like a domino effect. Doors just opening. Right? That surrender invites. This is why in the big book they talk about how would you have me be, not what would you have me do. Be. It's from the being that the doing comes, right? That's what pulls energy. That's what I attract. And I walk into this sober house, and this is a sober house that my therapist recommended 3 years earlier. All right, God, got it. I run it today. I've been managing the sober house for 10 years. Not my plan, not my goal. Definitely not my goal to live in Dover, New Jersey, you know, behind God's back. I mean, this is behind God's back, right? Sorry. Yeah? I mean, that's just... I walk into this sober house, and the owner of the sober house looks at me, hears my accent, and goes, I have a perfect sponsor for you, Lena. She's Russian. And I'm like, great, only a Russian knows how a Serb drinks, you know? 2 alcoholic countries, get me together, you know? And, you know, her and Barefoot Bill, they were presenting a workshop in Milestone House, which is where I came to on my third leg of third tour of institutions. And I met her, and there was something about her eyes, right? Bill talks about when Abby comes, right? Abby talks a lot of stuff, but Bill notices, he senses the transformation. He senses that I knew she was telling me the truth, even though it was like so out there. I trusted her. I didn't trust you. I didn't understand what you were saying. I didn't necessarily want what you had. I didn't really understand what you had, number one. And number two, some of it wasn't very attractive because some of you were not very healthy. You know what I mean? But I wanted those eyes that she had. I wanted that sense of okayness, because for all my life, from the moment I saw my parents fight over booze and divorce and booze take away my dad, I just wanted to feel okay. I just wanted to be okay in my own skin. I didn't want to feel that tension and that fear that I was riddled by, and that sense of insecurity. And I did everything she told me because I trusted her and because my life depended on it. And that's, again, conclusion of step one leads to everything else, right? Because step one told me that everything else is going to fall into place, and it's naturally going to occur like a domino effect, because I know my life depends on it. I knew that I was screwed. I knew that I was doomed. I was the one that was drowning and you were throwing a life raft, and I wasn't complaining about what color it was, which is what I see a lot of us do when we come in, and we haven't had that true, real experience of what step one really means. So today, when I say I'm an alcoholic, I know what that means. I don't say it to stand up here. I don't say it to sit in these rooms. I don't say it as a victim. You know? I know what I'm saying when I say that. And it is the most beautiful thing that's ever happened to me, because there was nothing else that was going to get me to God. There was no other way for me to go to that place of humility, to experience gratitude, to experience forgiveness, to take personal inventory, to be willing to look at myself, to turn to prayer meditation, to go on silent retreats, to experience the incredible beauty of sponsoring and seeing somebody come to life. Literally, that's what it means for me to recover, is to come back to life. Because everything about my past life was very, very dead and very dull. So Lena tells me, I want you to get a home group that's a literature-based home group, and that's the home group I'm from. I got that home group when I came to Milestone. It was 5 minutes away, and it's a big book meeting, and we've done a few different formats, and we go through the book, we digest it, we read it, we share about it, we question it, we get fed on it, basically. And I'm really, really happy about the fact that she told me the truth. She told me what I suffer from, what alcoholism means, what I need to do in order to face it. She talked to me about God. And not only that, it wasn't so much what she said, it was how she be. It was how she be, right? She pulled me in. I was attracted. That was that attraction rather than promotion. She wasn't selling me anything. She was just telling me this is how. And I went through so 1, 2, and 3 was really experienced already, and she took me through the work pretty fast, and she introduced me to some mentors like Barefoot Bill and Peter M. and Chris S. and I followed these people like a groupie, man. I was like, I went to 100 big book studies, workshops, like you name it. I think one of my sponsees, when I first started working with her, put like 10,000 miles on her truck in like the first 90 days of working with me. She was like, what the hell? I was like, come on, let's go to this workshop. I was excited. That excitement, that enthusiasm just starts occurring, and I wanted to hear more about this transformation, because this was news to me. This was news to me that this was even available. That was a realm of impossibility, And the fourth step, I saw some truth. The book met me where I was at and what I could see. And I did everything as genuinely as possible, because I do believe I was ready, even from day one, although many other inventories after that revealed much more, and there was more depth, because, how free do you want to be is a question they ask us, how much do you want to peel the onion? There's always depth, there's always layers to really seeing aspects of truth about ourselves and how we live our lives and what I believe and my conditioning. And I never even thought that I could question anything, that I could question my mind. I don't even know what the next thought is in my mind. That's how not in control I am. And this delusion of control was really what was always being inventoried, And so we do the inventories just like out of the big book. And I have this 5th step experience, which is incredible. And I even find myself in one point in this 5th step experience feeling like I'm sitting with a bartender and I'm like bitching about something. So, sorry. And I'm like really in the resentment, and and she was just sitting there unconditionally allowed. She was just the space. She was space, man. She literally always put it back. She gave me the autonomy. She really meant what the book said, that God is deep down within us, and it is only there that he can be found. Deep down within me, I have to search fearlessly and diligently, but it is there that he can be found, right? And it was that sense of okayness that was coming from deep within me, right? And that, yes, deep within me I was capable of forgiveness and compassion and allowing and letting go, and that I was going to be okay, that I am okay, And I had this incredible 5th step experience, and at the end, just like the promises says, it's not even about the drink. The drink is not even the last thing on my mind, not even on my mind. It hasn't really been on my mind. Like I said, the mental obsession was removed, but there was always that sense of alcohol being a part of my story. And at the end of the 5th step, I was like, this is not about alcohol, it was like aha moment, which you guys are talking about all the time. But, until we have that experience on our own, I need my own autonomy. I need my own realization. You can tell me till you're blue in the face. I need to see it here in my heart, And, I see the hideousness of my life running my well. And I see my powerlessness, not over alcohol, but over alcoholism. I see my powerlessness over the mind. I see how the problem centers in the mind, yeah? And this is where I now need God more than ever. Yeah, this is where I need God. I need God. I need directions to live. I need guidance. I need inspiration. In spirit, inspiration. I need that. Yeah. You know, I do some work with 6 and 7 and some character defects and some prayers, and I'm hungry, and I'm like, I want more, and I'm listening to all of you guys, and I'm just like amazed at what's possible here and what you guys are offering and this gift that we have. And we get to the amends, and it took me 3 years to make the first set of amends, but I always had an amends planned from the moment we got on the amends. And you know, they say 6 and 7 separates the men from the boys. 9. I'm telling you, 9. In my book, it's 9 that separates the boys from the men, or whatever. However, I don't even know how to put that for women. Never mind. But you know what I mean. And you know, I'll share with you just a couple of experience with the amends, because you know, this trust and this courage, which I don't have on my own power. You know, on my own, why give you back the money? You don't even know. On my own, why face you? I'm too embarrassed and ashamed. I'm afraid you might reject me or say no. On my own, I don't want to open that can of worms. On my own, that realm of possibility is very limited, right? Very limited, very small. The book tells me, go forth, you know? Trust. Everything about the step work is about trust. That's how I develop faith. That's how. I don't want to be up here. I have a fear of public speaking. I don't like doing this. I do it because it's not my life, because life tells me show up. God tells me it's okay. God tells me trust. That's why I do it. And every time I do it, I experience that faith. Only when I do what I'm uncomfortable with. Only when I get challenged. Only when I'm put out of my comfort zone. And that's what amends process was for me. Because this is where I left the comfort of my couch and my room and my little sober house room and my sponsor who understood me unconditionally. And I went to face some people that the last thing they remember is me calling them a few names and hanging up the phone, or, you know, flipping the finger and saying, you know, or whatever. And so it was time to make some amends. And 9 out of 10 times the unexpected happens, just like the book says. I mean, sometimes I think the book lies, you know, and then I'm like, oh, wow, they really mean this, you know. This is for real. 9 out of 10 times the unexpected happened. 9 out of 10 times when, as a human being, when that heart speaks, the heart of the other person speaks too. It gets touched. So there's a different, it's a transformation that speaks. It's not really about who I am and identity and what our relationship was like, and that it pulls, that power, that healing power pulls, man. When I own my stuff, you relax because you feel safe with me. Right? Because it's no longer about pointing fingers and blaming. It doesn't matter what you've done, because I see that I have a part in everything. I see how fear, selfishness, self-centeredness, how the ego has made decisions for me. I see how I was constantly, you know, hitting walls, yeah? And reality always won, obviously. But one amends I made to a friend of mine, and I made the amends, and he was dry for about a year. He went into Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't know this. He didn't like what he heard and saw. He left it. And about a year and a half later, I show up, and I want to do this amends. And he sees me, and I didn't know, but the next day he walks back into Alcoholics Anonymous, and he's a productive member of AA for the last 8 years. Not because of me. That's the power of the amends. I don't know where they lead. I don't know what can occur. There's an amends I did. He's in Brazil. He's a multimillionaire married to a super. There's no way I can find this man. There's no way I can find him. I just can't find him. So my sponsor told me, hold it in your heart. Let the intention be there. The intention is a prayer. The intention will attract. It's on God's time, not on your time. Trust, believe that it's going to happen when it needs to. If you're ready, you be ready. I was ready. He was visiting New York City for 3 days. He called up my old work where my sister still worked, looking for me. I do the amends. I had this opportunity to meet with him, to make the amends. I think the amends didn't go so well. I'm in like a, Dover, he's like a bourgeois, I'm thinking, he's kind of looking at me like, what are you doing here? Like, yeah. But, I say my stuff, I make my peace, I make my effort, I show up. I let the heart speak. I let God speak through me, yeah? And 6 months later, he was diagnosed with a rare illness. And he was in a clinic in the United States, and he woke up and he saw the sun, and he was grateful. And he had no one to share it with in his circle of people. So he called me up. Like stuff like that you can't make up. You can't make up stuff like that. Like, I'm not worthy of these kinds of experiences. That's, again, not in the realm of my mind that this is possible or this is available, yeah? This is God's world, yeah? And while I'm making the amends, 10 and 11 gets introduced to me in a stronger way, and I follow the disciplines out of the big book. The big book, obviously has a very direct way that it suggests for us to do that. Step 10, day to day, moment to moment, being mindful, yeah? Keeping the awareness on me. I'm the fish I need to catch the whole time. All the 12 steps are about is that I'm the fish I need to catch. I go fishing for me. How do I move? What am I feeling there? What's that about? Which way do I need to go? See, just listening hearing that deeper, that God consciousness, that sixth sense, developing a relationship, right? Because now the step work has cleared out that path. And the path between me, my mind, and the heart has lessened, yeah? That path has gotten connected, yeah? So now I listen with all of my being. Then I get introduced to the 11th step and prayer meditation, and I always had an affinity for that. Well, in recovery. You couldn't there's a philosopher that says all of man's troubles can be traced back to his inability to sit alone. Yeah, that's me. All right, not even a minute, like TV on, radio, music blasting, on the phone. Like I always need people. I can't be in my own skin. This was the end of my drink. This was the last 3-4 years of my drinking. I was like, next, excitement, more, different, And here, it takes a lot of courage, And when I had 18 months sober, my sponsor dropped me off at a 10-day silent retreat in the mountains of Massachusetts, where you meditate from 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. and you have access to nothing. And I mean nothing. You sit. And 3 of those sits in a day, you don't move for an hour each sit. I don't recommend it to anybody. It was the most painful, It was the most, but I did it like 10 more times. It was the most painful. Yeah, it was the most painful and the most rewarding, real, authentic thing that I ever did. I had to face myself. And also what happens when you sit alone, when you sit in silence, whether you want to call it meditation, I just call it sitting still or sitting in silence. You actually experience the powerlessness over your own mind. Because I could be sitting in a beautiful place on a mat, and in my head, yesterday's breakfast, 5 years ago event, tomorrow what's gonna be, the news, like a song that's stuck in my head that I don't even like from the 80s, that I can't get rid of, and the more that I resist it, the more it's in my head. It's always been there. The truth's always been there. I didn't need... God is bigger than AA. Don't get me wrong what I'm going to say. I didn't need AA to tell me that, but I did. I did because of the illness I suffer from. But God's bigger than this. The truth was always there, including when I was 12 years old and I had a religious awakening that I completely pushed away and never told anybody about, because there was nobody in my life to validate it, because I felt that it was too insane, right? It was those moments, that childlike faith when we were looking at the stars when we were kids, and I know we all did that. When I saw the beauty of this world and the magnitude and the mystery of existence, right? And my mind couldn't solve it, and it was okay. I was okay with just being in love with it. You know, today, it's like that childlike faith. For me, it's like being in love with the mystery, being okay with not knowing. So the 11th step really gave me that. And the beauty of the big book is that it gives me these actual suggestions on what to do in the morning and what to do in the evening and what to do when agitated or doubtful. And it introduces me to the pause, because, you know, if I reacted to every thought that went through my head, a few of you will be dead. I mean, really, you know, that anger like comes up, and, you know, like I want to prove my point, and the ego gets involved, and I want to look a certain way, and I don't want to be disrespected, and all of that. All of that needed to get questioned, because you know what? That's not courage. That's not freedom, right? If the power is going to be on you, then you're going to be dictating a lot of how I'm going to be moving, and that's not cool. That's not my life. That means I gave my life to you, you know. And if you're having a bad day, oops, there goes my life, you know. So I had to rely on God. I had to trust, yeah. And so the 11th step for me has been really about softening. It's been about softening the heart. It's been about allowing. Thy will be done. The greatest prayer in the book. If it's the only prayer I ever said, I've said them all. Your will be done. It's a voluntary surrender. It's an allowing of every moment and every day. It has no resistance in it. It says, whatever is brought to me, I can get through. It's okay. I'm okay. It's allowed. Yeah? That takes heart, man. That takes balls. Excuse my language. But you know what I mean. And the 12th step really kind of brought the wholesomeness of all of that. It brought it full circle, because now, first of all, I don't sponsor. Sponsorship happens, because if I sponsored, I would take that to the mind would own that, right? The mind's very tricky. It wants to take credit. It wants to own stuff, and then the unmanageability starts happening, and then trying to control starts happening, right? Because now it's my world and not God's world, you know. And in God's world, what happens? I show up. He sends somebody, and we do this dance, you know, where maybe for a moment we wear two different hats, but at some point we must walk shoulder to shoulder. As a matter of fact, even from the moment we meet, we walk shoulder to shoulder, yeah? And they're my mirror. They are a mirror. That's it. They're a mirror. All of my step work, anywhere where I didn't see something or realize something, or it was a little bit elusive, like those steps that we don't talk about, like 6 and 7 and stuff like that, or that fear inventory, that certain column, that third column, you know, where we don't really go too deep sometimes. All of those things that I couldn't really see, I could sense, I felt, but I couldn't really see the first or second time around. My sponsees taught me. They filled in the gap. They filled in the gap of that, you know, because the more 5th steps I listened to, and the more inventories and the more times I read the book with them, and it became more alive, and then it became more personal. And now I stopped using Lena's and Peter's and Chris's words, and it became my own. It wasn't what I underlined at the big book studies, because the words were jumping out at me, yeah? Because I was having an actual genuine experience. Besides the fact that it says nothing ensures immunity, like intensive work with other alcoholics, right? When everything else fails, that won't fail. And what is that about, really? I'm out of myself. It's not about me. The mini-me is not important, right? There's a greater sense of being that's involved in that, you know? And that's brought a lot of joy for me. There hasn't been a time in 10 years that I haven't worked with somebody. As a matter of fact, I think I made one amend, and my sponsor was like, step 12. While during 10 and 11, she was like, right away, it's service, man. And, you know, I'm really grateful for that, because, you know, like 10 and a half years later, listen, I've experienced a lot of uncomfort, a lot of challenges. There's been difficulties, there's been breakups, there's been heartbreak, there's been falling into delusion, there's been resting on my laurels, there's been seeing the egoic way in a deeper way, you know, like all of that, but it's okay. It couldn't be any other way. That's what life is. I mean, whoever told me, they should have taught me this in like elementary school, that, this roses and balloons or whatever, like, no, that's not what life is. I want it all. I want the challenge. I want the frustration. I want the heartbreak. I want to experience all of it, because that's life. That is the totality of life. Yeah? But I can only approach it, in my eyes, through God's eyes. That's the only way for me to get through it. And somehow, when I'm in that place of surrender, whether it's fierce, where I have no choice but to surrender to happen, or it's voluntary, where I'm accepting whatever is happening in my life and I'm trusting God, either way, I need to get to that place of allowing, and accepting. And I'm amazed still, I don't know if I'm going to drink, is the truth. I know my powerlessness. I know what it means when I say I'm Nikoleta, I'm an alcoholic. I've seen it all. I've lived with 60 alcoholics for the last 10 years. I've probably lived with 60 at a time. I've probably lived with 1,000 alcoholics. I've buried 50 of them. I've seen a lot of joys. I've been, you live next to them, you meet their families, you see their relapses, you see their joys, you celebrate their recoveries, and it's a whole nother ball game, and you see them get their kids back, open a first bank account, man, start working, hold a job more than 3 days, you see them forgive, I didn't talk to my dad for 10 years. This is what my mind does. This is what anger does. I can't afford anger. I can't afford a closed heart. I didn't talk to my dad for 10 years. Talk about that amend. I support him now. I support my dad. I support my mom. I take care of them. I take care of them. I'm a really lucky girl. So with that, thanks for having me, and yeah.
I know we're a little tough on space. If it's possible, please take a line and form a line and thank our speakers. They come a long way at their own expense and their own time for us to come out and talk to us and share their experience with us and their life. Next week, I don't know, we got Brad Kay coming in from Delaware. We'll probably squish in this room unless the temperature goes above 32 degrees, and then we'll have some breathing room, so bear with us. We've got a nice way of closing if you care to join us. Don't forget, our sister group is a Big Book study on Thursday, 7:30 at Salem. We like playing with the Big Book. Anyway.